Hey guys, Isaac from Blind Island Records here. We have our own Instagram account. My wife and I are trying to get a vinyl cafe started where it's a coffee shop and record store. So if you want to hit that up, we'll have that in the description below, the link to that. But yeah, I'm here to enter into Dylan at Noble Records contest. So this is my very first YouTube video. I apologize if I ramble a little bit. And yeah, I just want to say that I'm very excited. This is my first and probably only YouTube video I'll ever make. But yeah, let's get started into the challenge that he issued. So the first one is, what are the favorite albums that you had from a buying standpoint? So most of my records, we try and keep our purchases down from like about $25 below. And we don't have a huge sprawling record collection, only about 665 albums. But yeah, it's definitely something that these albums that I'm about to show you were deals because we always get excited for those. So here's the first one. This is the Bob Dylan Blonde on Blonde. I know that this may seem a little average and generic in comparison to a lot of people, but this one has kind of a fun story. I was walking around, I went into a thrift store one day and they had a bunch of 50-cent albums, and I usually, as a rule of thumb, just flip through them real quick, thumb through them, and I checked this one out, and it's in the midst of Frank Yankovic and a bunch of polka stuff, and I'm gonna buy it no matter what, but then I see it's a monocopy, and I'm thinking, could possibly be, and I open it up, and it sure is. It's the issue where they had the different photos in there and the misprint. This is usually going for about $50 to $60 in good condition, and this is about a VG condition, but regardless, it was really fun to find that for such a deal, and definitely a great story as far as record hunt is concerned. So yeah, that would be my first one. Then the second would be this Thelonious Monk with John Coltrane. I found this on an extremely hot day in the middle of summer here in Wisconsin, and I was walking down State Street while I had a break at my other job, and there was a festival going on and there's this record store, so I thought I'll stop in there and see if they're having any sales. Well, they have a bunch of used vinyl there, and they're normally known for doing all new. And I see this in their bargain bin for $4. I'm thinking this has to be a beat copy, can't possibly be any good. And I pull it out, VG Plus all the way through. I bought it, brought it home, and it's definitely been a heater on my turntable. So great record, highly recommended. Pick that one up. And this final one, really special to me. I picked this one up with my vinyl buddy, Nick, giving you a shout out. This is Penny Goodwin, Portrait of a Gemini. Penny Goodwin is an amazing soul jazz singer that only came out with one album in the 70s. And she was a Milwaukee artist, and we went to this small record store in Watertown called Paramount Records. And I picked this one up. It had been a grail of mine for a long time because copies of this usually go for $300 to $400. I pick it out and it's only 10. I'm thinking it could potentially be one of the bootlegs that came out in the late 2000s, but I take it home anyway. I check out the matrix numbers, sure enough, it's an original copy. It is one of my holy grails, and I'm so happy to own it. Great little story there. Now we're gonna look at what I think are the greatest songs of all time. Now I couldn't possibly begin to say this definitively is the greatest song ever created, but I'm just gonna go with songs that I feel hit me personally on an emotional level, just on a consistent basis. So the first one I'm going to go with is Curtis Mayfield, No Thing on Me, from the Superfly soundtrack. This is just definitely one of those, you're feeling good even though life may be getting you down. It's a song full of positivity, and his just vocals on it are soaring like he's sailing off into heaven. And I love this record, and I love that song. It's one that I turn to when I'm feeling down a lot. So maybe when you're having a bad day, turn to that song, No Thing on Me by Curtis Mayfield. See how that makes you feel. So, phenomenal song. One of the best ever written. Then from incredibly positive to extremely depressing, we have Tom Waits' Christmas Card from a Hooker in Minneapolis. This is one of the best story songs I have ever heard. The way that he encapsulates this woman who is so down and out on her luck, and then twists the knife at the very end when we realize that this long note she's been writing to a friend who's probably forgotten her a long time ago, to say how good her life is going. It turns out that she's actually asking for bail money, and she needs to get paroled around Valentine's Day. And it's just one of those where I completely empathize with the character in the song. I think we all have been in a place where we wish we could have done things a little different with our lives. And that's one of the reasons I believe that's one of the greatest songs ever made. And then finally, this one always strikes me no matter what mood I'm in, and that is Bob Dylan's Shelter from the Storm from Blood on the Tracks. This song, oh man, it basically encapsulates everything that I feel about my wife. She constantly has been a shelter to me throughout our time together, and I love her so much, and every time I hear that song, it reminds me of her. And also what I love about this song too is that I think he captures something a lot about relationships, that we can only shelter each other, but we can't save each other. We're eventually going to have to go back out into the storm alone. But as long as we're there to lend a helping hand and to bring that person back in and give them shelter for a brief period of respite, then we can make it through life. And that's why I believe it's one of the greatest songs ever made. Absolute must-own, Blood on the Tracks by Bob Dylan. Now, we're going to go with how do I store our records? Well, since we have kind of a smaller collection, we go by rare albums. We have them close to our turntable, rare / more listened records, and we have those A to Z. Then we have our two shelves right here of contemporary A to Z, soul gospel A to Z, and then our folk country A to Z. And then our rock goes A to Z over there, and jazz A to Z. Then we also have a bin that's right next to the turntable of things that I pull from the record collection, and kind of things that I don't think maybe hit the table as often as they should. And as soon as a record has been played on there, I put it back into our filing system, pull out another one, and put it at the back of the crate so that we can kind of keep it turning always, so we're not listening to the same things all the time. So that's how we store our records, and hopefully that's helpful for some of you out there. And then, which is a record that I would never sell? This one is definitely sentimental. I went the route that Dylan did, and I chose this Johnny Cash live at Folsom Prison. It's nothing special, it's not a test press, and I have a few that I definitely would like to keep for a very long time, but like you, Dylan, I think if you get the right price, then they could potentially go. However, this record right here was given to me by my high school sweetheart in my junior year of high school, before I even had a turntable. And I just remember being absolutely enamored with it because she knew that I liked Johnny Cash, and I just kept on carrying it with me. Even when I didn't have anything to play it with, I just loved the look of it. I loved just how kind of ragged and the power that was held within this black disc. And then when I was a junior in college, 4 years later, I got my first turntable. This was the first record I threw on, and it instantly transported me to a magical world, and I love it. And I will always cherish this album, and I'll never sell it. So yeah, now we're going to go into two documentaries that we really enjoy, or that I found to be extremely helpful. First one is No Direction Home, the Martin Scorsese, Bob Dylan documentary about his time from his early days as a folk artist all the way through his electric tour to his motorcycle crash in 1966. It was a watershed moment for me. I watched it when I was a freshman in college, and it completely opened up my eyes to new and different various forms of music, because it wasn't just about Bob Dylan, it was about folk and blues and jazz, and it completely transformed the way that I view just artists in general. So great documentary, carve out some time to watch it, highly recommended. And the second one is The Devil and Daniel Johnston. Daniel Johnston was an individual who suffered from a lot of mental health issues, but he created some of the most beautiful and sweet song lyrics ever. My wife actually walked down the aisle to a version of True Love Will Find You in the End, which he wrote. And it's a very amazing story about how beauty can come even from the darkest of places, and I highly recommend that music documentary. And now for a couple of records that were favorite gifts of mine. Now, this first one was given to me by my wife, and she had recommended this to me before she gave it, and I wound up just listening to it all the time at work. It's like a movie for the ears, and it's Jeff Wayne's musical version of War of the Worlds. It's like a proggy, disco, synth, electro, just amazing record. It's all over the map, and I love it. It tells the entire story of the book, and it's one of those albums you can just put on and it takes you away. She gave this to me for my birthday this year. I could never find it in the wild, and then after she gave it to me, I found like 4 copies. But I've given them as gifts because I love this album so much and just want to share it to you. So thanks, honey. Great album. Now, we're gonna take a look at another gift that was given to me by my vinyl buddy Nick, and it's Tom Waits' Bone Machine. He gave this to me for Christmas this past year, and this is one of those records I never thought I would be holding in my hands unless I had ordered it. And when he gave it to me, I was completely blown away. It was an amazing gift, definitely one of my favorite albums by Tom Waits. He again is one of my favorite artists, so thanks again, man. Great album. And then final question is, what's your listening ritual? And since I work such a strange schedule, I don't really get a chance to get into the ritual, a very specific one, but I do have a ritual before I start listening. What I do is I slowly take it out of the sleeve. I keep all of my records behind the cover so that I don't have to put all of my fingers on the cover. I pull that out, I take it out by the label so no pinching occurs, set it on the turntable, give the once over with my anti-static brush, another time with my microfiber cloth, and get the record started. I love how it's kind of a religious experience, and that you have to be methodical. You can't be very fast on putting a record on it. It's a very intentional thing. And in a world where we're constantly bombarded by so much all the time, it's just great to do something that's intentional. And then when I do have the time to just really sit down and relax, I usually listen to it in the morning. I grab a cup of coffee, I sit down here in this listening chair right here, and let the music wash over me and drift away to the personal oasis. That's why we call it the Blind Island, because for a moment you unplug from the craziness of the world and you just disappear into the music for a little bit. And it is a wonderful thing. And yeah, so that was my responses to your challenge, and I want to say thank you so very much for issuing that. Dylan, I think what you're doing is amazing. Keep up the good work. My wife and I are very inspired by your work. And yeah, wish me good luck in this contest, probably my first and only YouTube video. But it was a lot of fun. I had a great time. And thanks again, guys. I hope that you all have a very blessed day, and may you all have a good one on your own personal oasis.